The bold and the beautiful week of September 812, explosive confrontations, shattered trust, and a secret on the brink of exposure this week on The Bold and the Beautiful. Everything spirals out of control. Between surprise visits, exposed secrets, emotional blackmail, and the slow crumbling of already fragile relationships. The week of September 8 through 12 promises chaos that will shake the core of every family involved. The drama centers around Will Spencer's hunt for the mysterious woman behind the masked knight, Thomas Forrester's growing obsession with reclaiming his family, and Taylor Hayes' devastating realization that Rich Forrester is once again slipping through her fingers. Secrets boil to the surface, boundaries are crossed, and lives may never be the same. It all begins with Thomas Forrester, once again consumed by his endless crusade to restore what he believes was stolen from his family. He lashed out, not just privately, but loudly and without remorse. He storms into conversations, slams doors, interrupts meetings at Forrester Creations, and makes his message clear. If it weren't for Brooke Logan, Rich would have stayed with Taylor. He says it again and again, like a broken record driven by delusion. Every look he throws Brooke is filled with resentment. Every sentence is laced with bitterness. To Thomas, Brooke is not just an ex-wife. She is the thief who stole years of happiness from his mother, who disrupted the Forrester legacy, who continually pulled Ridge away every time peace seemed possible. Now, with Ridge yet again refusing to go through with a marriage to Taylor, Thomas sees Brooke's shadow behind every excuse. He doesn't see hesitation. He sees sabotage. And he wants it to stop. Thomas tracks Brooke down and unleashes everything. His words are cruel, direct, and intended to hurt. He blames her for every year he spent in a fractured household. He demands she step back and let Taylor have her turn at happiness. He warns her intensely if she's taken enough, that this time she needs to let go. But Brooke, seasoned and steely, refuses to be intimidated. As the dust settles from that clash, Ridge has his own reckoning to face. Taylor walks into his office expecting love and loyalty. What she gets is a gut punch. Ridge, standing in front of her, speaks gently at first too gently. He tells her he'll always love her, always respect her, but he can't marry her. Not now. Maybe not ever. Taylor, stunned, doesn't crumble. She resists. She cuts him off. She's not going to let him do this again. Her voice is calm, but underneath it trembles. She reminds him of the promises, of the plans. She reminds him of everything she's already forgiven. But Rich stands firm. Even as Taylor tries to appeal to his heart, even as she puts everything on the line, her dignity, her pride doesn't move. She pleads. She accuses. She demands to know what changed. But Rich doesn't have a clear answer. Or he doesn't want to say it. Maybe it's Brooke. Maybe it's fear. Maybe it's the crushing weight of everyone else's expectations. But whatever it is, Ridge won't take the step forward. And Taylor knows exactly what that means. Meanwhile, in a storyline unraveling on an entirely different battlefield, Will Spencer begins to follow a trail he doesn't fully understand. The mysterious masked woman from that night still haunts him, and the messages won't stop. They're cryptic, suggestive, and infuriatingly anonymous. And when a new message arrives this time, a photo of the mask she wore will reaches his limit. The photo comes with a message, our secret. Just between us, it sets him off. He needs answers. He needs the truth. And he's not waiting any longer. Will turns to the one person he trusts with secretious half-brother, Liam Spencer. Liam, a pro with digital tools and more than familiar with unraveling complicated stories, jumps into action. He traces the number, triangulates the signal, and identifies the location, one of 3 penthouses in a specific luxury building. Will doesn't hesitate. He takes the address and heads straight there. And waiting behind one of those doors, Luna Nozawa. Luna has been walking a tightrope of denial and fear. Ever since that fateful night, she's carried guilt, confusion, and desire in equal measure. She tells herself it was harmless. She tells herself, will forget. But she keeps texting him, keeps dangling pieces of that night-like bait, keeps pulling him closer even as she hides behind the safety of a screen. But the moment of truth is coming fast and she's not ready. Lee Finnegan, sharp-eyed and fiercely protective, has sensed something wrong from the beginning. She tells Luna point blank that Will is off limits, that he's not someone Luna should be messing with, that the Spencers aren't just powerful, they're dangerous when pushed. But Luna won't stop. She keeps reaching out, keeps hoping, keeps feeding the fantasy. But when Will shows up unannounced, the game ends. He pushes open the door to Lee's apartment. He steps inside, voice sharp, eyes blazing. He knows. He's sure. And he's not leaving without answers. Luna hears him from the bathroom. She's frozen. Panic spreads through her like ice. She listens as Will shouts, "Come out. I need to talk to you." Her breathing quickens. Her mind races. She fumbles with the lock, then stops. What is she supposed to say? How can she explain? Lee is nowhere to be found. Sheila Carter Sharp, also mysteriously absent, has left Luna completely alone to deal with the fallout. Will paces the apartment, shouting again. "I know it was you," he says. "Just come out." Luna backs away from the door, heart pounding in her throat. Every second feels like a lifetime. Back at Forrester Creations, the chaos in the personal lives of the company's key figures begins to seep into the boardroom. Steffi is trying to manage the tension, but it's too much. Her father is unraveling. Her mother is humiliated. Her brother is on the edge of violence. And the business is starting to feel it. Meetings are missed. Deadlines slip. Designers are distracted. And in the middle of it all, Katie Logan steps forward as a voice of clarity. Katie, watching Ridge carefully, pulls him aside. She's worried. Not just about Taylor or Brooke or Thomas. She's worried that Ridge isn't acting on his own volition. She asks the question that's on everyone's mind. Are you being manipulated? She names it. Eric. Thomas. The ghosts of the past. The pressure to play the Forrester patriarch. To be the man everyone needs him to be, instead of the man he actually is. Ridge doesn't answer. Not right away. He stares out the window, silent, as the weight of every decision, every heartbreak, every failure starts to crash down on him. And then, slowly, he admits he doesn't know who he's doing this for anymore. Not really. At that moment, in a different part of town, Luna finally emerges. Slowly, cautiously, she opens the bathroom door. Will turns, face stormy. He demands answers. He wants to know who she really is, why she lied, why she played games, and most of all what happened that night. Luna tries to speak, but her voice fails. The confrontation is intense, raw, and full of everything they've both been avoiding. The week ends with multiple cliffhangers. Taylor, broken but composed, leaves a note at Ridge's desk. No signature. Just 5 words. You've made your choice. Goodbye. Thomas, alone in the Forrester design studio, slams his fist into a wall and screams. Steffi sits in her office, head in her hands, unsure how to put the pieces of her family back together. Liam watches Will from afar, uncertain whether helping him dig up the truth was the right move. And Luna, standing face to face with Will, says the one thing she's been too afraid to say. It wasn't supposed to happen like this, but it did. And now nothing can stop what comes next. Because on the bold and the beautiful, secrets don't stay buried. And once the truth is out, the wreckage left behind can tear even the strongest families apart. The bold and the beautiful, Ridge's rejection, Thomas's descent, and Douglas at the center of the storm. The week on the bold and the beautiful tears open old wounds, exposes raw truths, and pushes Thomas Forrester to a dangerous crossroads. Ridge's rejection of Taylor Hayes doesn't just crush hope, it sets off a chain reaction that threatens to drag the entire Forrester family back into darkness. At the center of it all stands a boy too young to understand the war waging around him, Douglas, a child searching for peace while the adults in his life continue to weaponize love. It starts with a warning. Thomas Forrester, still seething from Ridge's decision to walk away from his engagement with Taylor, confronts Brooke Logan. Again, the scene is tense, familiar, and heavy with everything left unresolved between them. Thomas doesn't raise his voice. He doesn't need to. The message is clear. Stay out of it. This is between Reg and Taylor. This is family. And Brooke, in his eyes, is the outsider who keeps tearing them apart. Thomas's eyes are sharp, cold. He calls back every year Ridge spent with Brooke instead of Taylor. He blames her for every holiday Douglas spent without his grandparents together, every fight, every lie. He tells her directly, her presence is the poison that keeps the Forresters sick. And once again, he tells her to step aside. But Brooke doesn't move. She stands her ground, unshaken. She tells Thomas she won't apologize for loving Ridge. She reminds him she didn't force Ridge to leave Taylor. He made that choice himself. But Thomas refuses to believe it. Every word Thomas says is meant to protect his mother. But the truth is darker. His anger isn't just about the present, it's about the past he can't let go of. The more he fights for Taylor, the more Ridge pulls back. Every time Thomas tries to rescue her, Ridge sees the same patterns emerging: controlling behavior, the manipulative tone, the refusal to let people live their lives without interference. Ridge has already told Taylor he can't marry her. He's already made it clear that going back would be a lie. And yet Thomas keeps pushing. Behind the scenes, Ridge is struggling. He hates hurting Taylor. He hates disappointing Thomas. But he knows what he wants and, more importantly, what he doesn't. He doesn't want a life built on guilt. He doesn't want to repeat the same cycle. And every time Thomas storms into a room to defend Taylor, it only reinforces Ridge's fear that the old Thomas, obsessive, boundary-breaking Thomas, is back. It reminds Ridge why he walked away in the first place. And it makes any path forward with Taylor feel even more impossible. Taylor sees it too. She watches Thomas argue, watches him demand, and realizes the damage is growing. She begs Ridge to reconsider, not just for her, but for their family. She pleads, trying to hold the pieces together. But Ridge can't do it. He tells her again, this time with finality. He loves her, always will, but he can't marry her. Not now. Not under pressure. Not when everything feels like a performance instead of a choice. That's when Thomas snaps. He storms out of the room, face red, voice cracking. He can't believe Ridge would abandon them again. He sees it as weakness, betrayal, cowardice, and he refuses to accept it. But there's one card Thomas hasn't played yet, and that card is Douglas. Douglas, quiet and thoughtful, has been watching everything unfold. He doesn't understand the full scope, but he feels the tension. He sees his father upset. He hears his grandmother crying. And he misses when things were simple, when he thought love meant being together, not falling apart. Douglas tells Thomas he wants everyone to get along. He wants peace. And Thomas hears something different. He hears leverage. What Douglas sees as a wish, Thomas sees as a tool. Thomas begins using Douglas's voice in conversations. He brings up his son's sadness, his longing for a stable family. He tells Ridge that Douglas wants them all together, that a marriage between Ridge and Taylor would make everything right. He says Douglas needs it and just wants it, needs it for his mental health, for his stability, for his future. But Ridge sees through it. He knows the difference between a child's hope and a father's manipulation. And the more Thomas uses Douglas, the more Ridge pulls back. Brooke sees it too. She warns Ridge, don't let him twist Douglas into a pawn. Ridge doesn't answer, but the worrying is already written on his face. As the week unfolds, the cracks widen. Steffi tries to intervene, tries to get Thomas to step back. She tells him to stop using Douglas. She tells him to listen to Ridge, to respect his choice. But Thomas isn't listening. He's spiraling. He believes Ridge has been brainwashed to be Brooke by fear, by the Logan legacy that's always been a wedge in their family. He says Steffi is just scared. that no one is willing to fight anymore. But he is. He'll fight for Taylor. He'll fight for Douglas. He'll fight for what's right, even if he has to do it alone. Then comes the moment no one expected. Thomas files a request to revisit Douglas's custody. He says it's not about control, it's about protection. He says if Ridge won't marry Taylor, if the family can't be united by love, then he'll take action another way. He'll give Douglas the home he deserves. A home with Taylor. Without Brooke. Without the Logans. Without confusion. The move shocks everyone. Steffi is furious. Brooke is devastated. Ridge is livid. He calls Thomas into his office and lays it all out. If you do this, if you drag Douglas into this war, you're not protecting him. You're turning into the man I hoped you'd never be again. Thomas stares back, jaw tight. I'm being a father. No, Ridge says. You're being a child with power. The silence after that is deafening. Douglas, meanwhile, is caught in the eye of the storm. He doesn't understand why people are yelling. He doesn't want to choose sides. He just wants peace. He just wants to be a kid. But now his name is being dragged into courtrooms, into boardrooms, into shouting matches he never asked to be part of. And slowly, he begins to pull away from everyone. The week ends with a final standoff. Ridge stands alone in his office, staring at a framed photo of his family. Not the perfect one Thomas wants, but the real one. Flawed. Complicated. Honest. He picks up the phone, dials a number, and waits. The voice on the other end answers. Brooke, Ridge says quietly. We need to talk. Elsewhere, Thomas watches Douglas sleep. For a moment, he softens. He brushes his son's hair back, whispers that everything will be okay. That he's doing this for him. But even as he says it, part of him knows he's not just doing it for Douglas. He's doing it to win. To prove something. To get back everything he thinks he lost. But at what cost? And with that, the fuse keeps burning. Because in the bold and the beautiful, when love turns into control, when family becomes strategy, and when children are dragged into battles they didn't start, there's only one thing left to do. Brace for impact.